Hey.
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen. JJ's all decked out. You got to do it. Look, you're doing the Lord's work over here, buddy. Doing some taping right before the show.
It never ends.
Then we do the show, and then you got to go do more TV.
It's all right. It's fun. It's a good time of year.
You don't even get to be in Paris. You got to do all this extra work. I assume that those guys are just hanging out, taking a quick dip in the Seine River, and then popping out, crunching on some croissant, and then I assume going to all the fun events that they want to go to, and then hitting the bed early because you want to sleep in because you're kind of on vacation. Isn't that how they covering the Olympics goes?
I think they had 31 hours of programming
I saw
in 2 days. It's been pretty crazy. Obviously, historic. We haven't had a chance to talk about
it's fresh.
The big announcement. We'll get to it.
I get to tell you where I was watching the announcement on Tuesday, aka Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and so I know how tired Sam is because I received, and I don't know, I mean, you know this, there's a couple of Alexes in this building, all right? There's one across the glass from us right now because Alex is filling in for Jeremy this week. I'm Alex. Alex Cabrero and I have been working here Alex is probably 25 years going on here, right?
Oh, yeah, he's been here longer than me.
Alex is probably 25 years. For the last 20 years, I've received Alex Cabrero's emails because they're like, hey, Alex, just a quick drop, just a quick line here. And I'm like, wrong, Alex. I get that. Sam Farnsworth did it to me the other night.
Really?
Yeah. Hey, here's some pictures from today. Stuff they were shooting around town. And I was like, hey, wrong, Alex, bro. And he's like, oh, and he gets it because he goes, yeah, this will only happen for now through the rest of eternity. So I'll apologize for it. But at the same time, it will happen more. That you got a couple of Alexes in your phone if you work in this building. All right. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, and nutritious boost. And we're going to kick off the show as we always do at the cut. Let's jump in right here, and hopefully we'll get to Sam. We'll at least talk about some Olympics before we get him on the program here. So let's jump in right here. It is the cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right. Trying to get Sam Farnsworth on the horn here. I will tell you, so I told you I made the mistake it was a blessing in disguise, however you want to look at it. My phone starts dinging, and I'm a light sleeper. My phone I for some reason have the ringer on, and I never do, and it starts being like, bing, at like 2:20 or 2:30 the other night. And I went, oh, yeah. It was an alarm, actually, on my phone. It just said pancake breakfast downtown.
We talked about how
I did not,
excited we were about the pancakes.
I did not go downtown to get the pancake, but I did start watching all the coverage. So I had two things going on. I had my phone in front of me, and then I turned on the TV because the Channel 5 had the full programming. Yeah. You guys had the full live broadcast of the IOC and the whole thing. And
in the middle of the night. How cool is that?
I know, and we're watching, but then I was also, my phone, I had the, what do we call it, Facebook Live? One of the live things, and so I got to watch it that way. I'll get back to my story in just a moment here. Sam Farnsworth from Paris, France, joining us on the program now for the Paris 2024 Olympics as we get ourselves excited for the Salt Lake 2034 Olympics. How cool is it to be over there, Sam? First of all, and then how cool is it to have the announcement that we do officially get those Olympics in 2034?
It's cool and cool, I think, right?
Back to you. We appreciate it, Sam. We'll talk to you next week. Good talk, bro.
No, I mean, look, being out here, it really is very, very cool. And Jeremiah can tell you what it's like. Obviously, he had a little different circumstances being in Japan with COVID, right? And being kind of restricted in what he could do and where he could go. And out here, totally wide open again. But these first 3, 4, 5 days, however many it's been, I don't even know anymore. It's been a grind, and not a lot of sleep over here, but it's been fun to be able to go to some of these events already. So far, it's been rugby for me, and that's really been cool. I mean, to be there on the world's biggest stage of the Olympics is amazing. And but to cover the event where they voted, I was in the room where they cast the official vote and announced that Salt Lake would be getting the games back, to watch the delegation that Utah brought with them all seated there, their reactions. I mean, you had Jimmer Fredette in that group. You had Ryan Smith and Ashley Smith in the group right there. Gail Miller was there in the group as well. Derek Parra, former Olympian from 2002, two-time medalist from those games. He was there. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the people that Utah brought out here with them to be a part of this historic event and to react and to witness it firsthand as the Olympic Committee voted and approved Salt Lake City to host the 2034 games. So that was really amazing to see just the emotion and the reaction there, and to know that it's coming back. I mean, you think about, I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but you think about what the world of sports has done to our state of Utah since 2002. I think that, things like eventually now getting hockey, just all of these things that have happened over the past 20 years, you can probably tie it in one way or another to having a successful Olympic Games here in Utah. Now think of where it's going to go from here for the next 30 years, right? I think the 2034 Games is going to have that kind of effect and then some to what the sports momentum, Ryan Smith tweeted that out, the momentum of sports in Utah, it certainly is rolling in that direction for our state, and it's really cool to see.
When we're watching all this, I couldn't help but think, and part of the reason that I was up and watching the entire announcement happen live is I was like, oh, this is, obviously it was a slam dunk. I mean, it wasn't like when they were in the room casting the vote, they didn't do a full presentation from the Swedish delegation that lasted just as long as Salt Lake's did.
Yeah.
What they did was they had the presentation, which was phenomenally done, by the way. The entire IOC and everybody in the room was just like, dude, we're blown away by this. Like, this is a group that already knew they were going to be getting the Olympics likely, right? Mm-hmm. But they did the presentation. It was phenomenally done. Ty Burrell voiced over the entire presentation, the video portion of it, and then Fraser Bullock gets up there and he goes through it. To hear all those IOC guys going, we want to say welcome to Governor Cox and Mayor Mendenhall, and they go through the whole thing, and at the end, what took so long was they dove into the doping allegations of the Chinese swimmers that happened recently, which I think most people didn't even know was a thing, and our Congress ended up calling a congressional hearing subpoenaing some of the. Is that what you say, subpoenaing? Is that a verb?
It is now.
They've been, yeah. So they subpoenaed all these different members of the International Olympic Committee, and the Olympic Committee was like, hey, we have our own doping agency. Like, you guys getting in and starting to do your own investigation on how this works actually kind of slows things down for us. And if you're going to get the Olympics, so then the Salt Lake Games ends up being kind of a little bit of a bartering chip for the IOC to go, we will rip these games and the Los Angeles games. This is what they talked about. We'll rip these games and the Los Angeles games if your country is going to meddle to this extent. And I thought, man, then you start going, oh, wait, are we going to see this thing get pulled? I mean, is it a slam dunk? Now, in the end, they rolled it out and they said, hey, this is going to be Salt Lake 2034. And it was like using the Salt Lake Games as this political point to say, don't get involved in, we have it down pretty well. And the background is just as a quick one, those 23 Chinese swimmers that had been, that they tested positive for a substance, they traced it back to a contaminated food item that those athletes had eaten that was previously cleared but had a substance that was not allowed. So they went through and they go, look, we kind of screwed this up. It was not the athlete's fault. It was what they called like a non, because that's the athlete's big thing is it's like, oh, I ate a sandwich and it had the roids in it, whatever. and that's everybody's like defense, but they'll go through and they test everything. And they said, let us do our thing. And if the U.S. gets involved to that extent, we're going to be in a bad spot. And so they go through, and it wasn't until just after 4 a.m. And I've been watching since 2:30, and I'm like, get to it already. But they just kept going like, we're now turning the time over to the Honorable Mr. So-and-so from the figure skating, head of, the entire games. And then they all did the same thing. Salt Lake, what an amazing presentation. However, if you do not follow the protocols, and so it turned into this weird thing. Sam Farnsworth, hopefully we got him over a more sophisticated situation with the Zoom calls. But Sam, I was just telling JJ that for as amazing as these games coming here and getting these games in 2034, the IOC made sure to make a point to say, hey, you've got to jump through some hoops when it comes to the U.S. getting involved in the anti-doping stuff, because they were like, this is our thing. This is not your thing. That was kind of it was a really long lead up to when they finally made the announcement. It was like an hour and a half of them kind of chiding the U.S. Political system and asking Salt Lake to sort of use that as a platform to say, hey, if you want these games that are going to bring $6.6 billion to your area, you've got to play by our rules, not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very interesting aspect to it all, right? I mean, basically they open it up to questions after the presentation and before the vote, right? They open it up to questions from the IOC members, and they didn't ask questions. They just made statements of, hey, we loved the presentation. We love that you guys are going to get this opportunity again. However, we want to make it very clear that we need you to comply with the World Anti-Doping Agency and all their rules and testing policies and things like that. And the funny thing is even before all of that, they were pretty clear in their presentation that they are supporters of WADA and all that they're, doing right now. So it was just a bunch of people, what it felt like, saying that, hey, you better fall in line, otherwise this won't go over well for the United States. Afterwards, they did open the mics back up, and Governor Cox mentioned that, hey, we're all on the same team here. We all want this to work. So you can trust us. Let us get to work to make sure it happens.
That's interesting. These things are never as simple as you think.
Right. There's
always politics and all this stuff
Yeah.
going on. So bottom line is we got the games in 2034, and that's pretty exciting. And I earlier was asking you, before we got cut off, what is it about 2034 that we can look forward to? Anything you heard in the last 24 hours that you thought was the most interesting, and what changes could happen? Anything that could happen between now and 2034? What is the thing that has you most excited about the 2034 Olympic Games?
Well, before a month or two before the vote, the IOC was out in Utah. They were kind of inspecting all of the facilities that Utah has, and there was just a lot of praise at how well kept up all of the facilities are from 2002. They've all been updated or have plans to be updated, and so they're still at a very high level for international competition. So you think of, okay, what does Utah have to do between now and 2034? It doesn't seem like there's a lot that they have to do, but there are things they are going to do. And I'm really curious, obviously, with the hockey team, the NHL team now coming to Utah, and the plans that Ryan Smith has for downtown Salt Lake City, how that might play a role in everything that they're doing. Of course, you want to have all that completed well before 2034 also. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly, all of those pieces fall into place with SEG and with the city and the government, and how quickly they get the downtown project completed. Because you'd think that a renovated new arena would play a big role in this upcoming Olympic Games. Outside of that, there hasn't been a lot of talk yet. You just see, I've seen some of the posts that, oh crud, now we really do have to get to work. We've got 10 years to make this happen and to make it fantastic, to make it better than it was last time, and the best Winter Games that the world has yet seen.
Sam, what was the when everything was kind of said and done and the dust settled a little bit on it? What's the thing that really, and I think the facilities are a big part of it, but what's the other thing that kind of separates Salt Lake from some of these other cities that did make the bid?
Well, one thing that maybe this is just my Utah bias coming in, but you got to love the proximity of all the venues, right? I mean, every ski resort in Utah is within an hour of the Wasatch Front at the most. Park City is only 40 minutes from downtown Salt Lake at the most, where you've got, the Winter Park with ski jumping and the luge and bobsled and all that as well. You got the Oval over there in Kearns, Curling's in Ogden. It's just everything is right there, and there's just something about the attraction of sports to Utah right now, right? We're all witnessing it with what Ryan Smith has done with hockey, with what the Millers are trying to do with Major League Baseball, with how basically this bid for the 2034 games was uncontested because everyone's like, oh, Salt Lake's doing it. There's no way, there's no way we're going to win that bid with how well prepared they already are and how well they've been able to upkeep everything from 2002. And so, everything has just fallen into place. And for Utah to get these games, and I think it's going to be, obviously we still have a lot of time, 10 years, but it just feels like it's going to be really amazing, unlike any other Winter Olympics before, because that's what it was back in 2002. It was the best Olympics at the time and still one of the best all-time winter games that have ever been put on. And so it just feels like there's no way Utah is going to fail to come through once again.
Yeah. As we look ahead to this Olympics and the focus on summer here, I want to ask you this. And you're looking at you've obviously looked at a lot of the local athletes and what they're doing, but every Olympics, there's that one athlete that maybe we didn't know very well or didn't know at all that by the end of the Olympics is on a Wheaties box. Who is that athlete in this Olympic Games?
That's a great question. I don't know if you're right. 100%. There's going to be someone that we didn't know very well that's going to emerge and become the star. But when you first go into the Olympics, you're like, man, there's all this star power that you expect to rise and kind of steal the spot, or not steal the spotlight, but to be there in the spotlight again. Look at the men's national basketball team. I know that these last couple of warm-up games have been nail biters, but they are a loaded roster full of star power from the NBA, right? All-time greats are on that roster. You look at the women's gymnastics team, and with Simone coming back, and you totally expect her to steal the show when gymnastics is going on. And there's just all of that for me. And I know I'm kind of being a homer about this, but for me, I kind of feel like once 3-on-3 basketball gets going again, there's going to be a little bit of that old Jimmer mania that's going to kind of re-blossom and re-bloom in the United States. Jeremiah, you covered it firsthand, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how crazy it was. It wasn't just a local thing in Utah.
No, it was
that thing
not.
really spread across the country. It was massive what he was doing in college. And I think a lot of people are going to be reminded with the stories that are going to be told when 3-on-3 basketball is going on about what he meant to college basketball at that time. And it's going to be almost like a resurgence on the global scale, because I feel like that 3-on-3 team has a great opportunity to bring home a gold medal. And so it's, for me, that's one of the storylines that I'm most excited about, that it just kind of feels like his name's going to be kind of popping back up into the spotlight, not only in Utah, but all over the country again.
There you go.
I think, people who've already been on the Wheaties box, so to speak, Katie Ledecky and Simone Biles, people are anticipating that they're going, and Simone Biles, obviously the bounce back from the 2020 games for her, everybody's awaiting that, I think. I mean, what was it, in 2016, she had won 4 gold medals, and then she goes for a silver and a bronze in the last one. And then, of course, before she withdrew from a few of those events and kind of ran into that wall of, this was too much in that moment. And so what's the feeling now for those athletes like Katie Ledecky, who's like a 20-time world record breaking, athlete, and Simone Biles? What are they anticipated to do this round of games versus the ones they've had previous?
Well, for them, it's almost like there's nothing to lose, because you've already got your legacy cemented with how great you've been in the past. However, it kind of feels like this is your, this is it for both of them. I don't anticipate either of them being back in 4 more years. And so it's kind of like, okay, this is it. This is where you really, the last chance to write a chapter in your legacy and your career and what you have to do, or what you've been able to do. And as great as Simone is, that's a pretty loaded U.S. team that will be able to push her for medals too. As great as Katie Ledecky is, there's a lot of competition out there as well. So it just feels like this is kind of the last hurrah. I think they know it. Does that add any extra pressure, even though they've succeeded at this level before? I don't know. We're going to find out real soon when they get out and perform. But this is it. This is their last chance to I guess ride off into the sunset on the world stage with some medals. And so there's got to be a little bit of pressure behind that. But we've seen them rise to the occasion before, and I would expect nothing less for them to do it again.
And because of our interest in the NBA and in basketball, we'll be following the basketball side of things pretty closely. And you mentioned 3x3 with Jimmer, but the 5-on-5 team is going to have a lot of eyeballs on it with LeBron James and company. But they weren't exactly stellar in their 5 warm-up games. How concerned should we be about USA basketball? And is there a team like France or someone else that could knock them off their perch?
There certainly is. There are. What year was it when Argentina won?
04.
I think it was
Yep,
Argentina
in
that
Greece.
won a gold. 04.
Yep.
Right. Ever since then, it's been like any country can win this now. And I saw someone. I wish I knew the exact number off the top of my head right now, but I saw someone mention the difference in international NBA players from the Dream Team in '92, which was like 6 outside of the American team. Right. There was like 6 other international players in the NBA, something like that in '92, to what it's at now, which is like 50 or 60 or something like that. And it's not necessarily that, and we've seen in the past where the U.S. men's team is kind of like some of the stars have passed on the Olympics, like, nah, I'm not going to do it. And they've kind of thrown some teams out there that maybe weren't the best for USA basketball. This roster this year, this is really pretty much the best for USA basketball, but it doesn't, like, the competition out there is way better than it was in '92 or even in '02 and '04, right? So there's legit chances that the U.S. can go out there and fall short against, a France team that's got a lot of talent. Who knows? Maybe Australia still has something in the tank. Canada's got a great roster, right? So there's a lot of countries out there that, sure, they could knock the U.S. off their perch. But I kind of feel like this roster, even though they've had these close games, these tune-up games, they know what it takes. There's champions on that roster. There's Hall of Famers on that roster. They know what it takes when the time is here to rise to the occasion and to play great basketball and win basketball. It just feels like this roster, they're built to win this thing. And if they don't, it would be a massive disappointment.
Sam Farnsworth, never disappointing. Sam, of course, from Paris, live. I guess
except for when my phone call drops all the time on you guys.
Well,
I blame T-Mobile or whoever.
No, I blame our bosses. It goes all the way up to the top on this.
Oh wow,
one.
that's bold.
We've got to get those. We got to get all of those phones dialed in, and and until we can get those phones dialed in, Salt Lake, we'll give you the games for now. But if you don't get that phone situation figured out, you will have the games ripped from you. So there you go. All right, Sam, we'll be chatting with you again over the next couple of weeks here, and we're excited about it.
Yeah.
We're glad to be hanging out with you, and I know it's getting close to midnight there. So go to bed on one of those. Are you on the cardboard bed too? Is that the deal?
Look, I'll tell you what. Every hotel bed for me feels like a cardboard bed when I wake up and can't walk for the first 10 minutes. So that's just me whining and complaining a little bit, but I'm sure I've got it better than the Olympic Village.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what they say. Nothing says world-class athlete like making them sleep like a 2-year-old. Yeah.
Can your guys at the warehouse ship me a mattress for the rest of this thing?
Tom Curl's like, we just got an endorsement from Sam Farnsworth.
Tom's on it right now.
Yeah, we'll get it figured out. All right.
They got a boom deal coming your way.
Sam, we appreciate it. We'll chat with you again in a couple days here, man.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Sam Farnsworth, everybody. Got it all figured out. Oh, see, in the next conversation, we can talk about food. Because I want to do a solid 20 minutes on the food situation.
We got a lot of stuff we'll hit while he's out there.
We'll have all that. All right. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Appreciate Sam taking some time out. And for the entire KSL 5, KSL News Radio, KSL team that's out there in Paris. And it's a fun deal to be able to follow this thing. You can do it. Go online. Find it wherever. Go to KSLTV.com. Go to KSLNewsRadio.com. You can find all the updates of all the things going on across the board from our KSL team over there in Paris. All right. We'll take the break. We'll come back. I've got some audio you want to hear on the way back. I just played it for JJ right before the show. I probably should have just left it. But Deshaun Foster taking over for Chip Kelly at UCLA. You've got to hear what he said at Big Ten Media Day if you haven't already, because he's getting beat up over it. But I've got a lot of questions. So stay right here, 97.5 EKSL Sports Zone.